I just got one thing to say. The topic of the day is y'all mad. Yeah, y'all, whoever y'all is, y'all mad. Y'all gonna go do an anonymous tip and have an investigation open up on me because y'all mad? What y'all, matter of fact, what I want to know is what y'all mad about. So I get a phone call today and I'm under investigation for SNAP fraud. It was an anonymous tip given to the Inspector General's office on me about an anonymous tip about a SNAP fraud investigation about me not reporting my self-employment income and that someone lives in my house that shouldn't be in there. My thing is, who y'all mad at? Y'all mad at me? Or y'all mad at the person that y'all said is in my house that's not in my house? I want to know who you really mad at. And furthermore, what do you gain out of this phone call? Out of this anonymous tip? What do you gain? Okay, an investigation is open and then it will be closed and then no fault will be found on my end. And then what? What's next? Y'all gonna go call CPS and report me on that too? Because I'm telling you right now, I got people, baby. I got people who work for the state. And trust you me, I will find out who did that anonymous tip. And guess what? You will be sued. Will be sued. So I hope you had fun making that freaking phone call. I hope you had fun. And guess what? Number one, God don't play about me. And number two, I don't play about me. And I don't play about my children.
Why do y'all think y'all can sue for everything? You can't sue for everything. And here's the thing, right? Because I feel like if it's not going on and if this is just a shot at the dark, then you really have nothing to really be concerned with, right? Especially that'll be an easy thing to beat if there's really not a man living in your house. But I'm gonna be honest, she seems kind of guilty to me. The way that she's coming, the way that she's upset about this, it seems guilty, if you ask me. And if it's not that, the man being there, it could be something else. But it seems like she got fortunate. It seems like they warned her before they actually started taking certain steps to investigate. I guess they let her know you're under investigation. So now that guy can get all his stuff out of her house if he's there allegedly, right? But regardless, if none of it's going on, then you don't have anything to worry about. And then she's talking about she has people at the SNAP office. And so basically she can get the information that's supposed to be anonymous. See, now, if that gets out, then the anonymous person can sue. Since we're talking about suing, you can't sue. Sue anybody can do that to have you investigated, right? Anybody can report you. This is public. This is government assistance. But if one, the people are going to get fired if you get somebody from the office to divulge that information. And then two, they can probably get sued for sure for that. Especially if you then start taking certain actions, right? Because you're saying you're going to sue, but let's just be honest, you're going to go and try to act a fool and probably try to fight the person. But if none of that's going on, then really you shouldn't be concerned about it. But I think there are probably some things going on. And that's why she's getting upset about it. Y'all, before we get into the next clips, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second and it actually helps out more than you know. And also if you could hype.
I no longer owe food stamps $18,000. And let me tell you how all of this happened. Back in March of 2022, when I told my employer that I was pregnant, I was working a temp job, they said they're not gonna continue with my employment anymore. So what I did, I applied for food stamps, I applied to unemployment, and I started to apply to jobs. The next month, I was applying to jobs, I was getting second interviews. And by May, I had a job. I started my job at 36 weeks pregnant. The week before, I had to recertify for my food stamps, and I wasn't lying. I was on unemployment at that time, and I submitted what I was earning because I couldn't submit money that I wasn't earning from this new job. Anyways, gave birth, started work at 36 weeks, gave birth 3 weeks later. So I was on FMLA, non-FMLA, because I wasn't working at my job long enough to get paid through my job to give birth, right? So then SNAP sent me a letter late December of 2022 stating that I owe them because I was working at my current job. So I had to email them and tell them that I wasn't working. I was on maternity leave and they're holding my job for me due to non-FMLA. So, they have to hold my job for me. Gina, the car is sleeping. They had to hold my job for me. And then also for unemployment, I had to do the same thing too. But unemployment gotten back to me saying that they have cleared it. I don't owe anything because there was nothing to pay back given my situation. And then for food stamps, it took me years. From 2022 to now, they were garnishing my refund checks. And it's today my mom sent me a letter stating that they said that I don't have to pay any more money. And this was a lot of Gina, hold on. This was a lot of emailing the city, calling food stamps for them to rectify this. So yeah, don't play with food stamps. Don't play with food stamps. And I wasn't lying. My situation was different, and I had to advocate for myself to make sure that I didn't have to pay with that money. I know
That doesn't sound right. That sounds like she might be leaving stuff out because here's why. Sure, a lot of times when you go on the medical leave, or if you have to leave for pregnancy and they hold their job, you still get paid a lot of times. They're just holding your job and not paying you. A lot of times you're still getting paid. So I would argue that's probably why it was so difficult to rectify, because notice she didn't mention that she was getting her money back that they garnished, right? So I think maybe she just made a big deal about it and she didn't stop, and then they eventually just let it go. Maybe somebody, like she said, advocated for her. I don't know. But let's go back to that first lady for a second, because similar thing that I didn't touch on about her situation. Of course, she mentioned the man being there, but what she also mentioned was, I'm talking about the one who said she's going to sue the food stamp office, or sue the person that reported her to the food stamp office. She had also mentioned that they reported her about unreported income that she was making too, right? And so that's probably, even if they don't find the man or whatever, that's probably true. And see, notice she knows that it's somebody close to her, because that is probably intimate information and it's probably accurate information. And so now we see where the emotion was coming from and why she was so heated. 38 hot. It's because it probably is some truth to it, allegedly. At least one of those two things. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was both of those two things. But let's go ahead and get into the main story of today, y'all. Again, if you could like the video, only takes a second. And it actually helps out more. Do you know?
Welcome back. Good Thursday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Thursday, May 7th. It is 7:01 on the East Coast. The Trump administration cracking down on food stamp fraud, and there's a lot of it. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins says between January 25 and early this year, 4.3 million people have stopped receiving food stamps, in part due to tackling widespread fraud. She goes on to post on X saying in just one state, 14,000 individuals were receiving SNAP benefits and they were driving luxury cars, Bentleys, Ferraris, and more. Together with the vice president's...
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Hold on. She said in just one state, they were able to uncover that 14,000 people receiving SNAP benefits are driving Bentleys and Ferraris. And see, people like to try to gaslight and make it seem like we're crazy. But obviously, we're not, because this is what's getting discovered. And keep in mind, from my last understanding, they still haven't been able to get the data from blue states because blue states aren't giving that up. So these are red states, which we know are already a little bit more tightened when it comes to regulations, or at least their philosophy in regards to regulations. So imagine how egregious it could get when we start to get some of that blue state data, which that is one of their running points that they usually run on.
Task force to eliminate fraud. This ends now, writes the secretary. VP J.D. Vance, his fraud force found almost 200,000 dead people were collecting SNAP benefits. Joining me now is Agriculture Secretary herself, Brooke Rollins is here. Secretary, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So what was your reaction when you started digging into this, and how do you assess that fraud with regard to food stamps and agriculture?
You know, I think, Maria, great to be with you, too. I think that we all knew there was a lot of fraud in the federal government. And for those of us that were here in the first Trump term, like I was in the White House, we saw a lot of that. We were able to make some good steps. But in that 4 years between Trump 1 and Trump 2, really digging in, and if we had the opportunity to come back in, what we could be able to achieve for the American people and the American taxpayer. But even I, have longtime policy person, longtime America First conservative, fiscal conservative, what we have uncovered in the last 14 months, and especially supercharged with Vice President Vance's leadership, is absolutely stunning. The hundreds of thousands of dead people, the 500,000 people getting more than one benefit. We've made over 1,000 arrests, and this is just out of USDA, our office, our OIG office. So there's so much more to come. And
that's one of the main points of today's video. The fact that they've made, like she just said, over 1,000 arrests. Again, a lot of the data that they have so far is only red state data, which of course they were quick to give that up because they don't mind tightening the restrictions when it comes to government assistance because that is a red sticking point. However, we still have yet to get the blue data, so that can only mean two things. One, they just don't want to give it up. Or two, they may be waiting to give it up while they try to make some amendments and maybe try to continue the fraud streak and maybe even fudge the numbers a little bit or manipulate the data. I mean, it can only be those things, because why don't we have it yet? Why don't we know these things yet? Why don't we have that side of it? Which, if we speculate, is probably going to be the more malicious end of the spectrum. But yeah, that's what we're going over. People are getting arrested. Like she said, over 1,000 people have been arrested so far in regards to this. And see, people don't really take these things serious. But now, as you can see, things are getting serious. And they always had the option to be able to arrest you. But like a few of the videos we saw, a lot of times what they were just doing is just clawing back that money. And then they start garnishing your wages. But now it looks like they're actually arresting people. And I would guess it's probably the more seriously egregious situations. You know, you catch somebody with a Bentley, you catch somebody with a Ferrari, and, you know, those are probably the bigger arrests. But just understand, it can be any of you who are committing fraud if that is what you're doing.
I will say today we're making yet another announcement here on your show. The rule is official today that we are doubling the stocking standards. So we're going to keep holding the retailers accountable as well. What we've talked about so far, Maria, on your show is the people who are receiving the benefits that shouldn't be. But there's also a lot of retailer fraud, the stores that take the EBT cards, the SNAP cards, and we're cracking down on that with a big announcement today for our retailers.
Yeah, tell us more about that, because with this new rule that you're talking about this morning, we want to understand how this plays out in terms of who gets impacted. You're talking about stocking standards for stores who participate in the SNAP program. You want them, you'll require them now to carry more nutritious and whole foods?
That's correct. So under the old rule, until today, basically, under the old rule, anyone accepting the 240,000 retailers in America who accept the food stamp, they had to stock the stocking standards. They had to stock 12 or more, quote, nutritious food, real food. Well, today we're more than doubling that to 28, but we're also closing the loophole. So, Maria, before today, you could stock jelly as a fruit and jerky as a real protein. All that changes today, 12 to 28 at a minimum for any of the gas stations and the corner stores. And what I will say is there are a lot of communities that don't have access to H-E-B in Texas or a Whole Foods or a Fairway. I was in Iowa visiting the Fairway stores 2 days ago. A lot of Americans don't have access to those. So for those that do get a lot of their groceries from a corner store, from a bodega, we're going to make sure that there's a lot more nutritious foods on the shelves and that they're actually real nutritious food. So it's an important day. We're cracking down on the fraud, but we're also opening up the market to better foods for Americans who rely on those stores for where they receive their groceries.
Well,
That's interesting. So it's not just people getting affected who were taking advantage of the system, because we don't really explore this too often, but corporations, businesses were taking advantage of the system. They were doing it in a more capitalistic way, but nonetheless, they were taking advantage of it. And they were definitely factoring that in to their balance sheet of what they were going to expect to make, because I would assume that government assistance definitely added significantly and financially to what they were able to ultimately gain when it comes to their revenue. So, since you're gaining this, since this is such a big portion of your revenue, well, make sure that they have the options as well. And they're basically tightening the regulations to make sure that people can have more access to healthier foods, as opposed to, because we can talk about the stores, but we can even talk about the manufacturing companies, right? The people who make the foods. Haven't you noticed? And I'm talking about the junk mostly. Most of the junk prices are astronomical. It doesn't make any sense. What you spend on a bag of chips, you could really go spend and go get a whole meal somewhere, right? Takeout or whatever. And it's just getting out of control. So everybody's capitalizing off this thing. And, I think it was a long time coming for when we needed to start kind of regulating these things and getting some order put down ultimately.
wonderful, Secretary. Really meaningful policy there. So thank you for that. I want to get your take on China and what you'd like to see out of this meeting. I mean, the president is set to travel to Beijing next week to meet with Xi Jinping. Of course, the U.S. has been working and the president has been working.
So that's pretty much on that story there. I think they're going to start getting into some other international affairs. But yeah, a lot of things coming, and a lot of crackdowns coming, and a lot of people who have been taking advantage and exploiting for a long time are now effing around and finding out. And like I had been saying for the longest, listen, man, don't just think you're just doing something and worst case scenario, they can come for me and the government ain't going to try to get the money. Man, you can go to jail for this. These are federal crimes that you're committing. You don't play with the federal government, especially in a way to where they can have you sitting down, because they don't lose too often when it comes to convicting people. So I wouldn't take that risk. But it's been a lot of people doing it. And honestly, mostly it's been out of sheer ignorance. But now you're about to find out.
Story time on how I had to pay SNAP $14,000 back.
Hey y'all, so in honor of Thanksgiving Day, I want to do a little story time on how I defrauded SNAP and had to pay back $14,000. So, long story short, I have been getting stamps for forever. Working or not, I was getting them, right? The year was 2020. I had to recertify. I had lost my job. Like all this.
What did that say? What did her little caption say?
So, long story short, I have been getting stamps for forever. Working or not, I was getting them, right?
Oh, it says 6 years of back pay due to fraud.
The year was 2020. I had to recertify. I had lost my job. Like all this, had lost my jobs. So I lost my job, and I had to recertify. So when I recertified, they asked for my check stubs, and I'm like, I don't have no check stubs. They're like, oh, we see that you're working. I'm like, no, I'm not. Because technically, I'm not. This whole time I've been saying I'm gonna say 6 years. I've been saying that I haven't had a job, but now they found out that I had a job. Anyway, they're like, okay, so we see that you're working. We see that you did work, and I'm like, yeah, I don't. So they denied me, right? And they said they was gonna send me a letter in the mail. I got the letter in the mail saying, oh, you don't call me. They did an investigation, and because of the investigation, they see that I need to pay them back $14,000. I got food stamps, but y'all want me to pay y'all back in cash? Like I thought that they was just playing with me. I'm like, yeah, they got whatever, $14,000, whatever. So I go and I filed my taxes. I'll never forget, me and my family had to take a cabin trip. We in Wisconsin Dells. It's tax time. It's February. I'm checking my account. I'm supposed to be getting back $10,000 in taxes. That was the most I ever received in taxes, right? So I checked my card.
Let's address that. She talking about I got food stamps, but y'all expect me to pay you back in cash. You were spending it like it was cash, right? What other way do you think you can pay them back? Are we serious? You were spending it like cash. Don't act like it's just food stamps now. There was real cash in the grocery store. How else would they get it back? What do you want them to make you do labor for it? You want them to make you do 6 years of labor for free? There's no other way that they can get it back other than cash. Let's stop playing these games.
I call, just knowing that my tax supposed to drop. It said it was a zero. Then I had offset, so I get to calling around. I finally talked to IRS. They're like, yeah, Department of Human Services took $10,000. They took my whole check. I didn't know how to feel. I was mad, but at the same time,
good.
We had unemployment. It was just a whole lot going on. So I really didn't care, but I cared. But I just was, have you ever been so mad that you're just calm? That's what I was feeling. And there was nothing I could do about it. Like, I can't do nothing about it. Y'all. So bam, it's gone. And so I'm thinking like, how am I ever gonna survive? Because they just took all my money. Now if you know, you know. Everybody I know from years and years always get stamps and was getting them whether they work or not.
How many kids does she have to be getting $10,000 in a tax refund? What? Yeah, I bet she do be surviving off that money. You get $10,000 back in your refund?
You know what to say on the application. Never in a million years did I think that them people will come and I will be the example. I was the example, y'all. And to this day, I just don't even play. Like, people that's been...
The caption says, literally my whole life I've been knowing people that get linked no matter what. So why me? Because you after around and now you found out. It's just that simple.
Knowing how to get by with the system and never get caught. Chef's kiss for y'all, because me, they made an example out of me. So 2020 they took 10,000. In 2021, what did they do? They took the rest. So what they do is they take whatever they're gonna take and then they issue you your money. So I had already braced myself for 2021 and I knew that half of my taxes getting taken, and yeah, so they got their stuff back in blood. And I still don't understand that, because this was food stamps I was getting and y'all got cash back. I never said right. They never said right with me. Like, I know I don't have stamps to give you back, but just the fact that y'all took my money. So yeah,
what else do they get back?
I don't play when it comes to that, because and now it is 2025 and I got stamps after that, but in another state, and I started working and they took that. So yeah, I just spent cash when I buy food. I hate it. If y'all got some link, let me know. I'm buying it. But yeah,
it really peeves me sometimes when people just can't be objective about things. Like, ma'am, let's really think this through. Like, let's think this all the way through and not just think it to the first impulsive thought that comes to your mind. Okay? She said it, but she's like, y'all gave me stamps and then y'all took cash back. I'm still mad to this day. Ma'am, you should have had some time to finally like think about this and ponder this. There was no other way that they can get it back. And honestly, your tax refund, you shouldn't be planning to live off that anyway. Right? That's not, I mean, just assume that they already took it out. So it's like, think it through. What other way could it be? Be grateful. Shoot, be glad that they don't have to. Don't you know back in the day, if you owed a debt back in olden times, you would have to be somebody's slave. And see, people are going to get triggered because I said slave. And again, people can't think things through. So they just hear the first thing slave and they're going to say, oh, you're saying a black person should be a slave. No. And I'm a black person. But no. Don't you know back in olden times, slavery was just a worldwide thing? If you go back far enough, that was a regular thing, especially if you owed debts. You would have to work that debt off, or you would have to give away one of your children or something to work that off for you. So that's what I'm saying. Be grateful. Shoot, you could have went to prison. People not really thinking this all the way through of like, that's really a blessing. You were doing something wrong. Yes, you have to be culpable. You have to be responsible for it. And there's going to be some type of consequence, which I would argue it really wasn't a consequence because it still equals out at the end of the day. But you were the offender. So all you did was just pay back what you owed, ultimately. I know a lot of people aren't used to having to pay back what they owe, and they can go file bankruptcy or take out a bunch of credit cards or be trying to duck the repo man. But this was finally the first time that she had to actually pay back what she owed. And then she still didn't pay it back. So what they ended up doing was they ended up just taking her refund check. right? It's not like you were on a payment plan paying it back because you knew you owed it. They had to snatch it from what you were supposed to get refunded after tax time. That's why I said we need to start thinking these things through and being more accurate thinkers instead of just reacting emotionally.
Actually be happening inside the food stamp program. Review is exposing just how much fraud might actually be happening inside the food stamp program. This is according to USDA. Roughly 500,000 individuals were collecting SNAP benefits in multiple states at the same time. That's not all, though. Between 186,000 and 244,000 deceased individuals were still listed as active recipients. That's wild. That's wild when you think about it. On top of that, there were cases of recipients tied to luxury vehicles. It's a little confusing. So far, authorities say 895 arrests have been made tied to SNAP fraud in just the cooperating states. But here's where it gets a little bit more complicated. Only 29 states provided data for this review, mostly Republican-led states. About 21 states, including states like California and New York, refused to cooperate and are now suing to block the requirements. So I'll work to keep you guys up to date as this progresses. That's all I've got for now. Don't forget I have a free email newsletter where I cover topics like this in more detail.
And you see, guys, that's what I mentioned. So 21 states still haven't revealed the numbers. And they're mostly blue states, right? So whatever, the numbers are already alarming when you hear it. And these were from red states. And you have the other states fighting to not reveal it. So what that reveals is that it's probably, whatever the numbers were already, it's probably so much worse than what we could even imagine. The fraud that's been going on. And so now they're trying to sue, or I should say stall, right? To buy themselves more time. And what I want to know is, why do you need more time? Do you need more time so that you can go and try to dot your I's and cross your T's and try to change things around and change the numbers and coordinate in order to make sure that the facts aren't exposed? Is that why you need more time? Why do we need more time? Why isn't that just something that you give up? Like, really think about that. Government federal funds that have been given to you for a program. What do you mean you're not going to give up those numbers and you're going to sue the government for even trying to get those numbers? Again, we got to start thinking more deeply on things and not just taking the first thing. That is crazy. And that pretty much already tells us everything we need to know. But I still want to tangibly know. And so hopefully we can get that information very soon.
The first domino begins to fall. Meet.
His caption says, Mississippi woman accused of stealing $26K in stamps.
And just like that, the first domino begins to fall. Meet Victoria Reese, a Mississippi woman accused of SNAP fraud. She allegedly received $26,000 in benefits she shouldn't have received by erroneously reporting her income. Now, remember, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But based on this mugshot, I feel like she did what she had to do. And now the state of Mississippi feels the same. Victoria Reese, you got some splaining to do. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content like this.
Swipe it, yo, ballin', walked in the store like I own the place. That lady at the red aisle like it's black.
He just plays the music at the end. See, notice, it's just music, and just with the music, it ended up being 1 minute and 7 seconds. Boy, people are being creative on TikTok, but at the same time, they're not. If you don't know, TikTok creators, now they pass some regulation to where they don't get paid unless their videos are at least a minute long. So you'll start seeing people watering down their videos to make it a minute long so that they can get paid instead of just continuing to talk, right? It's kind of funny.
Now says that everyone who's on SNAP is going to have to reapply. Now, this happened, of course, when the government shut down and there was...
The caption says, all SNAP beneficiaries need to reapply because of Democrat fraud.
Who's on SNAP is going to have to reapply. Now, this happened, of course, when the government shut down and there was, the SNAP benefits were not getting out to the people.
For 42 million Americans.
For 42 million. Well, we
people
thought Americans.
Inside the country.
People is probably the better. Yep. People. And so Brooke Rollins, we had her on, and we had a great conversation with her where she said, hey, listen, this whole SNAP benefits conversation around the shutdown has sort of pulled the curtain back, and people are seeing how many people are on SNAP that aren't actually citizens, and they're going to have to reapply. What do you make of this? I think it's very popular, especially if you go online and look at what people think. I think it's a popular initiative to say these benefits are for Americans. Is she going to be able to accomplish this? Is she going to have some legal challenges to it? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm sure. Everything that comes from the Trump administration, I just track it and see how long it takes for it to land in the Supreme Court. So there are going to be legal challenges. But the thing is, most of these programs with SNAP are administered by the states. And a lot of the states do have verification programs where people have to update every 3 to 6 months or, really establish that they got some kind of need. But maybe she's proposing something at the federal level that would then have a federal component for, applying and proving that you actually need this. Because I think all of us are compassionate Americans. Like, we want our fellow Americans to get help when they need it. And we've all known people, if not our own families, that have walked through these periods of needing this kind of help. But Secretary Rollins also said that she found there were 186,000 checks or SNAP benefits going out to people who were dead. So if that's accurate, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And there are other problems with the program, too. So I think a lot of Americans would say, gosh, I didn't realize before we were having this conversation there were 42 million people on these benefits. Maybe it's, not such a bad idea. Just have
now says that everyone.
So in closing, you all, sure, a few bad apples will probably be prosecuted for the fraud that they've been doing. And it's probably going to be the most malicious and egregious offenders, of course. Trust me, they're not going to capture even a fraction of people and put them in jail for SNAP fraud. But they're going to go after the most malicious people, right? Because what they're trying to send a message ultimately. And in closing, sure, so there's going to be a few bad seeds that have to take responsibility. I think there will be far more people who will have to actually just pay it back than who will get convicted and end up doing prison time. And I don't even think probably many people will do prison time. They'll probably be on some type of probation or plea deal. Again, the government has a very high conviction rate. So I don't think people are going to play with it, especially if they know that they were just blatantly defrauding the system. But I think what this will serve to do is it will serve a much bigger purpose, a much larger purpose. And the purpose that I'm referring to is that it will ultimately serve a purpose of being a great deterrent moving forward. And it's funny, there's like a cognitive dissonance about this, right? Because people already have that philosophy and mindset when it comes to the government, or more specifically, the IRS. People have been passing along, don't play with the government. Don't give them what you owe them when it comes to taxes and the IRS. People have been passing that along for the longest, and people really don't play when it comes to that. But then there was a cognitive dissonance somewhere where they didn't correlate that, food stamps is also the government. If you don't play with the government in this aspect because you know what they can do, then why would you do it on the food stamp side either, or any of the government assistance benefits, like the first woman, Section 8, where someone reported her anonymously that there was a man living in her house. We understand that on other sides of the spectrum, but then when food stamps come around, we think that the floodgates are just wide open and we can do whatever we want. And I think ultimately what this will serve to do, and just really what this whole year has been about, is it's going to now serve as a deterrent where people are either going to deem it not worth it because of all the restrictions, the regulations, the work requirements that it's going to take. And they're just going to say, well, it'll be easier to just get a job. And they'll also say, well, and I'm also not going to try to defraud it or put something fraudulent on this paperwork because I know that they be coming after people. And so it'll really just send that message, and it'll start to get that reputation, which will serve as a much greater deterrent moving forward to where people won't even try it the same way that they do in other aspects. But we'll leave it there for today. Y'all, if you could like the video, greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you could hype the video. Hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller creators like myself. And basically, when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button and it shows the points. And because I am a smaller creator, we get more points per hype, and it was designed for smaller channels, smaller creators. So that's why we get more points. But if you don't see the hype button on the video, it's probably over 7 days old. Hype usually goes away after 7 days. So usually when you see a new video, if you want to support, then the best practice is to just go ahead and hype while the iron is hot. And then also Patreon's link below if you want to see self-improvement content as well. But until then, I'll catch you in the next video.